Welcome back, Soulful Society, to Soulful of Wellness,
the multi-generational podcast brought to you by two functional imperfectionists
and certified coaches
who deliver tips to live your most authentic, balanced, and anxiety-free life.
Thank you for joining us again for another week of wellness goodness. And if you're new, welcome. Thank you for being here. We are so happy to have you. We'd love to have you as a part of the Soulful Society. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing so you'll get a new episode of Wellness Goodness every Thursday morning, automatically delivered to your phone.
If you have not yet rated or reviewed this podcast, we would really appreciate your feedback. We'd love to have you help us out by tapping that 5th star and jotting down a few words.
It seriously makes our day, not even our day, like our whole year.
Yeah.
Every inch of your feedback, every word is just, we covet it, just so you know. Today's episode is all about how to create the life you desire through bravery, progress, and living in balanced imperfection by defining wellness for you specifically so that you know what success looks like, feels like, and how to achieve it. Happy fall! Today's episode is inspired by a true life experience. I mean, aren't they all? That I had yesterday in the hallway of my apartment building.
That's so specific.
I can't even. Guys, bear with us today. So, I don't know. We're just feeling goofy today.
It's just setting a scene. Okay, picture me. I'm in the hallway of my apartment building.
No, but I wasn't in the hallway.
Full hat.
I was at the front desk. I don't know why I said hallway. I was at the front desk. I was conversing with the concierge and she noticed my soulful hat and really liked it. So naturally, I had to tell her about the podcast. And through this conversation, she unveiled her wellness goals. And it really was eye-opening in terms of thinking about how most people view the term wellness.
Right, like what instantly comes to mind? Because I find that when people say, what do you do? And I say, oh, I'm a health and wellness coach. Right away, people have an instant, oh, da-da-da-da-da response. Like it means something to them. But the one category we get all the time
is weight loss and nutrition.
Yeah.
Like most people that we interact with, we've noticed, automatically associate our jobs as wellness coaches as like weight loss, weight management, nutrition, fitness, fit body, all of those physical elements.
And most isn't just 51%, vast majority. I don't even know what percent. Over 75% of people, I feel like that is the very first thing they say. The first thing that comes to their mind is that physical, what you look like, and most frequently a piece of that is weight, usually weight loss.
Right. So in today's episode, we're going to really get into what exactly wellness actually is. We're going to define it. We're going to chat about it and demystify it, clarify it. It is not just about physicality. It's far from that.
We can define it for ourselves. But more important, listeners, we will help a definition emerge. But I'm being like so accurate here. I don't know why I'm being so accurate here. You will have a definition by the end of this episode. The reason I think I'm being so precise about this promise is because it just gets to the heart of everything we talked about in preparing for this episode. There is no one size fits all definition. Like it doesn't exist. It's unrealistic.
Right. So we're here to expand your viewpoint on what wellness is. And you may already realize, you may already know wellness is comprised of so much more than your physicality. Of course, your body, Your physical health is a part of your well-being, but when wellness comes to mind, we don't want the vast majority of people to box in that definition and think of it as just weight management or nutrition or how you look.
We're helping you come up with a true understanding, because isn't that what you want in a definition anyway? When you want to define something, you want to understand it. You want to know what it is. And that's what today's episode is all about, helping you create that understanding of wellness for you in your life. What does it look like? What does it feel like? How will I know it when I've achieved it?
Mm-hmm. And look, we're imperfect people living in an imperfect world. You guys know imperfection is something that the two of us strive to appreciate and to live out as recovering perfectionists. And, you know, does living in an imperfect world doom us? No. Quite frankly, it's a reality that's also a gift because it conditions us to look inward for answers and to trust ourselves, which is ultimately the answer to literally all of your questions.
It is. It's that releasing control that is so difficult for me personally. And
same.
For so many people I've worked with, it's really hard to let go, because if you let go, then why even bother trying? Like, why have goals? Why work towards something? Because the world's going to throw you a curveball. We all know that from experience. Well, because we are imperfect people operating mostly really successfully in a very imperfect world. That empowers us to work with self-trust, with self-knowledge, with self-awareness, and to grow in that, deepen it, and ultimately achieve happiness.
So as I was talking to this woman at the front desk, the moment she heard the term wellness, she immediately related to it as her physical health, her weight. So what she said to me was, yeah, I've been talking with my sister a lot lately about how I've gained a lot of weight recently and we want to go on a cleanse. And so to me, what I was hearing was something actually a lot deeper than I want to lose some weight. I had a bit of insight into what was happening in her life. I knew she had recently lost her mother, which is extraordinarily painful. That's an understatement, right? I mean, and so what I would have asked her if I was her coach would be, what's the why behind the weight loss? And where's the pause to think about what that physical weight was actually a representation of emotionally? What is the emotional weight that you're carrying right now? Instead of looking at it as, oh, you have a wellness podcast. Yeah, I can relate. I'm trying to lose weight. When in reality, it's so much more than that.
Yes, you said the emotional weight she's carrying. Even more important, the emotional weight she's currently carrying that she would love to offload, which is so understandable and so relatable at an emotional pivotal point in life. We talked about life being imperfect. Life will throw you curveballs. To lose a parent, it's a curveball.
And so to be compassionate with ourselves is the key there, right? Is to give yourself the grace that you're going through a lot. And, you know, the focus so much, we just chatted about it, about the term wellness seems to be on weight. I mean, and this could be a whole episode in itself as far as what women deal with in this arena. I mean, we've been subconsciously programmed, marketed to since we were little about weight management, about how we should look. And so when people are hearing the term wellness, associating it with the physical body is like however wellness is being marketed right now is a huge disservice to the population, because it's not true. It's not painting the full picture.
Oh, not at all.
It's just feeding into all of this propaganda and marketing that we've heard since we were little. And it's a marketing ploy. Oh, do you want to get healthy, get fit? That's not your goal. That's capitalism trying to get you to buy something or to look a certain way. And so if we can really dissolve those ideas and beliefs, we can be able to uncover our true desires. What do I really want? I want to lose weight? Why?
I think a huge piece of why that one particular of many areas of the wellness wheel is such the focus for all of us, in particular women, is that it's the one you can't hide or fake. Mm-hmm. It goes with us everywhere we go. It's very visible, and we use it as a measure of progress, or in some cases of failure. And we make assumptions that may or may not be in any way related. Slim and fit is the ideal. My mom, God bless her, because she was an awesome mom and gave me lots and lots of positive messages that I internalized. But here's one that is a very, very dangerous thing. She used to say, you can never be too rich or too thin. And that is absolutely false. You can 100% be too thin. But I heard it so many times in my childhood and formative years that I have absolutely internalized it. And there have been times in my adulthood that I have been quite thin of my own design, but never once, never one moment of my life did I ever think I was thin enough. Even with a healthier perspective, looking back, where I can see that not only was I thin enough, I might have crossed into a little bit on the wrong side of thin enough. But in that moment, I know very well I wasn't there yet. There was more thinner to happen.
Well, thank you for sharing. And it's definitely relatable. If you finally get to that point, it's never enough.
It's never enough.
With the wedding prep, I fell into that trap. Oh, yeah. I was in the trap, sitting down there, nice and comfy, chasing it, chasing the thinness, chasing this, seemingly attainable perfection of, as my outward appearance as a bride, which, by the way, as I saw success, whatever you want to call it, there was some satisfaction gained. But honestly, you guys, being on the other side of that, I feel so much happier and so much more relaxed. It was not a sustainable lifestyle to keep chasing and chasing and chasing. It was exhausting, and it really was tormenting. It was not fun.
Okay, thank you for saying that, because I was sitting here debating. I'm like, do I call Kaylin out in this moment? And I was going to say, I have to call you out because that's the relationship. Thank you for calling yourself out, because you were describing it and you said sitting there all nice and comfy. And in my head, I was thinking, no, I was there at that time. You were not comfy. Nothing about that was comfy. Don't try to say it was comfy, but
Yeah,
you called
you're
yourself
right.
out. You came back around to it. You're like, no, it wasn't at all comfy. It wasn't fun.
You're right. It was not fun at all. It wasn't comfy. I guess what I meant, you're right.
It wasn't.
That's not the right word. I was sitting in the trap. Yeah, I don't know why I chose the word comfy. I guess the word that I want to use is I was sitting there in the trap.
Yeah. That's a better word right there.
Like very much in it.
Yeah.
There wasn't a ladder. I didn't provide a ladder for myself. I was just very much in it.
Oh, you weren't even looking for a ladder. Maybe that's what you meant, is that you were so entrenched in that space that was your, at that moment, I'll use air quotes, comfort zone. It wasn't a comfortable comfort zone, but that's where you were living. You weren't trying to be anything else. It was consuming.
It was torture. It was all consuming. It was torturous. I had never experienced something like that in my life. I mean, I've definitely experienced, of course, in high school, I had a lot of body image issues, but I had never crossed a line with my behavior until the whole bride-to-be identity came about in my life. And man,
there's so much pressure on that day to be the pinnacle of your own personal physical perfection. And like, that's the day of any day in your whole life. And that goes into the theme of the episode of wellness and imperfection and balance. You can, oftentimes to your own detriment, get to the place that you had envisioned, but that's not wellness because that's not sustainable. That's not life.
No.
That's not how you want to spend your time and the choices you want to make in the long term. That's a very temporary, for a day and maybe one day only, look that way.
And you know what? Chasing breeds more chasing. Then you're just chasing. And then guess what happens when you're chasing? You're tired. You're burnt out.
You're exhausted.
You're done. You want to sit down. Yeah, you're exhausted. You're depleted. And that's why I would highly recommend going on a honeymoon right after the wedding if you can. Do it. Relax, eat the cake, eat the fries, live your life, and learn the lesson.
Yeah, break the habits before they become too entrenched.
I did, thank God. So now I'm good. I'm not a crazy person anymore. But it did get a little bit scary at one point there where I was a little bit concerned for myself. So I would just, word to the wise, I would just warn all the brides to be very gentle and careful with yourself, which is also a great theme of the episode. When it comes to our wellness, especially if we're talking about the physicality, like we just talked about, wellness is also about tiny little changes to build a lifestyle that's sustainable, right? So we don't want to get caught in these patterns of hitting a goal or doing something quick and short term, because then we get into this pattern, right, where we feel like we failed. The term cheat day or cleanse or whatnot is so not only limiting, but it's really harmful, because then we get into this area, this mindset of I lost, I'm a loser, I'm a failure, I failed.
Right. So we're trying to pursue a goal. We're trying to build wellness, build self-esteem, build confidence and belief in our abilities. When we go for the quick fix, which is human nature, 100%, when we go for the quick fix, we're all but dooming ourselves to failure. The vast majority of crash diets or cleanses do not end in success. They end in failure, which only undermines any belief in self, belief in abilities. We berate ourselves with negative feedback around the perceived failure. Oh, you're lacking willpower. You're so weak. You can't even stick out the cleanse for 10 days. Well, hells no. Who can? And even if you do, does that really build self-confidence? What have you proved to yourself? Because day 11 is going to look vastly different regardless. Set yourself up for success, or at least not set yourself up for failure, by not going for the quick fix, the radical behavior change, something that looks vastly different from your life prior to the point, and something that looks and feels like you can maintain it in the long term, day after day after day, achieving balance in areas.
And it's so much more doable. The little, like, biting off a little bit, you know, like doing little itty bitty fixes. It feels more natural. And you'll notice if you observe your emotional state, your well-being starts to balance, level out a little bit when you're just doing little changes. You know what? I'm going to add lemon to my water whenever I remember, you know? It's not this rigid. Wellness is not a quick fix. It's not temporary changes. It's not one size all prescriptions, copying someone else, what they do, how they eat, rigid planning, seeking perfection. That's at that root of rigidity and wanting to look a certain way or be a certain way. And that's why the Soulful Society is born, because as recovering perfectionists, we want to seek balance. Because what is wellness? Well, wellness is balance. That's what we're striving for, not perfection.
Wellness is balance.
Bravery over perfection. Wellness is balance, and that's perfect right now because it's Libra season. The scales, balancing it out, living in polarity and contrast. Like, okay, I'll give a perfect example. I'll give an imperfect example.
Even better.
We were taking care of my mom last weekend, and I decided to grab us lunch. We didn't have much to cook. So I go to Sweetgreen and I get us all salads. And I'm walking back to the car. And all of a sudden, I smell this very alluring smell of Five Guys. And I'm in the car and I'm like, you know what? I'm getting out of this car right now. I'm going to also get us a side of fries. And I got us a side of fries. And it was amazing. And it was so delicious and perfect. And just the contrast of having that big salad of kale right next to those juicy, greasy fries, it made me happy. It brought me joy. And I felt like, I don't know, I didn't overthink it too much. And that's like a good place to be.
I'm smiling because I love that story. It is so human. It's so relatable. It goes to very clearly illustrate the point there is no perfection.
Yeah.
You did the healthy thing and you did the fun thing and you were happy and you felt good in that moment. You didn't beat yourself up about it. I kind of wanted to come back anyway to what you mentioned earlier about language and vocabulary and even word choice with regard to self-perception and self-confidence. And in that moment, you were a little brave. I know that sounds funny. Like you're brave, you bought French fries. People who've never had issues with food will not probably find this relatable. But if you ever struggled, you're going to understand what I'm saying here. It was a little brave to hear yourself and to go buy those fries knowing damn well what you were committing yourself to. You don't buy the fries and then throw them away. You buy the fries, you're going to eat them. So I know what that choice feels like. And I know the turmoil that can come from that moment of, do I stop the car and buy the fries? Or do I help myself by not letting myself do that? And later I'll thank myself. No. Be a human being. You're not never going to eat fries ever again in your life. So enjoy them with your mom alongside the salad. That is balance. That I'm smiling because that to me is happiness. That's the symbol to me of somebody, not that you've got it all figured out, because I don't think anybody ever actually does, but that you're really on your path in the right direction. That you could be so flexible in the moment and so in tune to what you wanted and responsive to the external stimuli you were getting. Forgiveness for sticking with me if you have no idea how that's an act of bravery, but for the rest of you nodding your heads right now, applaud Kaylin.
Oh, thank you, Kit. Yeah, I mean, I guess if I were to choose something based on what you said, which was so sweet, I love you so much, is I decided not to attach any emotion to it of guilt or judgment. And it's interesting. Yes. It's a perfect segue because what wellness is not is judgment of ourselves. We know that judgment of others is just a reflection of us judging ourselves. It's the biggest key indicator of where you need some work. I mean, we all need work, but you know, it's a good key indicator of where you're judging yourself. So I guess it was nice to not really have, you know, a state of turmoil about it and to just practice. You know, it takes practice, right?
It does.
Practice sticking with I want to do this, I'm just going to do it, and then I'm not going to second guess it. That could go for most things, for any decision that you're making in your day-to-day.
It's a lack of rigidity. I know I am frequently guilty of being rigid, and it's all in my mind. To say, no, the plan was to get salads. I got salads. Don't deviate from the plan. The issue there is that life doesn't work like that. I know why I find it comfortable. I find it comfortable because there are parameters and I know where they are and I can stay in the comfortable zone in between where I don't bump up. Like I like knowing the rules. Issue is when I'm rigid, I'm not always having fun. I'm not being flexible to the moment. It's an automatonic way to live life. So giving myself forgiveness, I understand where it comes from. I understand why I do it and what it provides for me. The big problem is that what I want and what I really feel would be a richer, more enjoyable, happier life for myself is one where I'm more flexible, more responsive, more able to change in response to changing stimuli.
Yeah. I mean, that's extremely relatable. And It keeps us, the ego paints this picture to us that that'll keep us safe. Rigidity is predictability and comfort and control, which is all strategies that our brain makes up to try and protect ourselves from the anxiety we're feeling. And we have plenty of episodes on anxiety, and we'll leave you with this, that anxiety is a state of being when we don't want to feel something.
Yes. I stay in that middle ground, that gray zone, while I might be giving up some really good, high, fun feelings. I'm also protecting myself against the opposite end. And so living in that gray zone in the middle, you avoid the fluctuations, but you miss out on the really good ones.
Right. And trying to be in the middle, it depletes the opportunity for joy, but it doesn't deplete the opportunity for, the negative and
so true.
The crazy stuff that life throws at us. So, ultimately, wellness is about flexibility. Flexibility equals balance, right? Wellness is not about rigidity, and it's not a one lane. It's not one aspect of you. It's not your physicality. It's not your weight. It's not just your body. The most visible parts of our wellness, like our body, our appearance, are not the most important. There is no single most important part of your wellness, actually. All parts matter. All of them.
All of them.
Your spirituality, your emotional health, your mental health, your intellect. All of these things comprise you, not just your body. So when we're talking about wellness, we're talking about you as a whole person, a holistic perspective. Ultimately, if we're focused on just our body, we're not seeing the whole picture, and we're not going to get closer to our deepest desires because we're a bit more tunnel vision. So we want to be open and we want to be flexible.
Anytime you hyper focus and you get, as you said, the tunnel vision, that you hone in and you're just so hyper focused on something that you're missing 60, 70, 80, 90% of the picture to focus in on that one little part. So our big coaching tip of the episode: what can you do about all this? You can structure your personal definition of wellness, including what success will look like for each of the areas. And when we say each of the areas, we've talked about the wellness wheel many times. For more details, go to our website, soulfulofwellness.com, go to the blog page, and in particular, look at the blogs Defining Wellness and also Why Wellness is Multidimensional. And then you're going to craft your personal definition of wellness. Success is about balance, so creating your really specific, very personal criteria for success. You'll highlight what's important to you, and this will reveal your path.
Love it. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend, and always feel free to DM us any episode ideas or feedback. We love you so much. Till next week, peace, love, and light.
Peace, love, and light.
The Soulful of Wellness hosts are certified health and wellness coaches. This podcast is intended to inform and entertain listeners on their wellness journey. This podcast is meant to enhance, not replace, listeners' care from doctors, therapists, or other medical providers. Soulful.